Alright. First one up here is another one from Bernard. I believe this is one that they had tried to fix themselves. Yep. Did some damage to it. Let's see what we can do.
Yeah, I got a base.
So here's the first part. What I'm curious about is if their dent did any damage, and I don't think it was I think they got really lucky in the spot that dented. Yeah, because there's nothing right there on the board, and it looks good. So let's just bend that back. Beautiful. And the other thing I'm curious about is the display, which I happen to have one right here that we can rip apart and look at. Alright, so it hit again in an incredibly lucky spot. I don't see any reason why this display wouldn't work unless they bent it too much. So 2 for 2 so far. Looks like we might just have a little bit of plastics to replace, but I do recall them mentioning a connector on the amplifier that needs some attention. Oh boy. Here we go. Yeah. We can definitely make a working HomePod out of this though. Seems like the gasket's missing. Or it's not lined up right. Oh yeah, no, the whole gasket for the logic cable's just gone. That makes sense, because the logic cable's gone. Alright, and there's our subwoofer. Looks good. Doesn't appear to be bent anywhere. That looks perfectly fine to reuse. All of the rest of this looks good to go. You got this this ring and you put this in correctly, and a lot of people don't do that. There's our subwoofer gasket. A lot of people mess that up. It looks like our ribbon cable is still in one piece, so should be good. Let's get the power supply out. Okay. What's going on with our diode here? Is that a good date code? For 4K? 2144K. Okay, alright. I see some stuff in there. Let's get that out. Those don't need to be in there. There we go. The rest of that, good job, man. We'll go ahead and touch that up a little bit though, just in case. Looks like its filters are actually completely missing too. Let's see, but everything else is still there. That's good. Alright, we got our work cut out for ourselves. Let's go ahead and do those filters first then. Ooh, spicy. Alright, we didn't move anything around, so let's go ahead and get some good filters on there. Now I don't know what flux they used, so I'm going to try to clean that all up. Normally I don't bother cleaning up our flux. It's specifically no clean. And we know that this stuff can be left around without causing corrosion and other kind of nasty issues that other kind of fluxes will cause. We have no idea what they used. So we're going to treat it like stuff that needs to get cleaned. That's about as good as I'm going to reasonably get that. Let's touch up our Schottky diode over here really quick. I'm sure it's just fine, but I do want to make sure it's nice and on there good. There it goes. And you'll notice that is not one pad up there, but two. Put that back on there. Now, I'm fairly sure that would have worked fine with those two pins on the top bridged together like that. We've tested it. Other people have fixed it like that. Other people have only been able to find diodes that don't, that only have the one pin at the top connected. And it seems to work, but if we can help it, we'll do it the way they came from the factory, like that. And there you go. Last but not least, there is the missing connector that's supposed to plug into the amplifier and go up to the logic board. Here's how we do this. Get that on there, and then we can get that on there. We're going to take our nozzle off so we've got the full airflow. We're just going to go to town. Oh yeah, here. That probably makes a lot more sense. Let's boogie. Here we go. Cool, we got them all. We'll stick that in our back into our parts pile and tidy this up real fast. I like to do this, I like to line it up with my fingers. Actually, I need a little more flux on there too, that'll help hold it down. think that's good. Oh yeah. That is lovely. Alright, and we do need to clean this, at least the inside of this a little bit. With all that done, is this a happy HomePod? Gonna need to do this a few times to really clean that port out too. There we go. First thing before we fry a potentially good logic board with a potentially bad display or amplifier, because the logic board's the hardest part to find good working ones still. So we'll grab a bricked logic board just to see if this powers on without blowing up in our face. Excellent. It appears to. So let's grab the rest of our parts, put this together, and see what we've got. Here we are. Alright, well, we've answered if it powers on. The next big question is, does it produce any good sound? Because there were those filters that were missing from the board that we had to replace. Yes, would have never thought to attack the problem from underneath. That is a tried and true trick if you are fortunate enough to be able to get to it from underneath. In a lot of repairs for electronics, you're not so lucky. You have to resort to low melt solder, trying to mask off the plastic part so it doesn't melt under your heat source. All that song and dance. Get pretty lucky on that one, though. Alright, the moment of truth, does it still seal? Yes, it does. We need ourselves a new top basket. The other one was pretty banged up and it was actually missing one of the mounting tabs for the logic board. And you absolutely need all 4 of your mounting tabs for the logic board. Otherwise, the logic board will bounce around and tear up the ribbon cables. Beautiful. Can we reuse this? It's pretty rough. I don't think so. That is okay. I've got a handful of those floating around here. Alright, the real challenge is if we can get this tucked in there with whatever's going on here. And I think we can. Because this drawstring ain't doing nothing. Yeah, unfortunately that's not even. So what we can do start stuffing that in. Presumably why his was so beat up too like that. Oh boy. Almost there. Boom. Just make sure it's all stuffed in there. I mean, it's not going to look perfect, but it didn't look perfect when it showed up, so there you go. You don't need a drawstring to tighten the mesh up on your HomePod. No drawstring, gang. What up? Ooh, that was what I was afraid of. Yeah, there's definitely something wrong with their amplifier. So we'll shoot them a message, give them some options. They said that if we couldn't fix it, we could keep it, but I would really like to fix it and get it back to them. That sucks, though. Kind of did figure, though, with how much that amp had going on with it, that it might not survive. Alright, so here we have Regan. Regan sent in 4 HomePods, 2 of which he said had noticeable popping. When we tested it, it wasn't awful. But 2 of them did seem like they could potentially use new filters. So we're gonna, he opted to have us tear into 2 of them here, and we're gonna go ahead and do that. Oh. Wow. That's never happened to us before. That's really frustrating. Wow. What the hell? I didn't even get to pull on it. It just like crumbled in my hand. I wonder if this is the one that was causing them disconnection problems, but even though we weren't able to reproduce it. Alright, well, we can't test it because the ribbon cable broke, so we're just going to have to take this all the way apart first. Alright, we got our broken ribbon cable out. Alright, there's our good cable. Good grief. There we go. Okay. Ribbon cable replaced. We can move on to at least testing this. I am curious if this is all even really necessary or not before we do it. Alright, sure enough, it's sitting at about 36 right now, and it is growing. So, on, 30, well, now it's at 40. Okay. So, does appear that this one just barely needs new filters. Good call. Was it enough to really cause any noticeable issues? Not really. Not yet. Well, at least not in the minute or so that we had it on. Very likely that, using them for a few hours at a time, that could grow more, of course, and that amount can cause damage. Alright, and then just really quickly checking, we have a 52K dated diode. those are not known to fail and cause any power issues, so we're going to leave that alone. Alright, so we're looking for two things with these replacement filters. We're looking to see that multimeter reading coming out of the amplifier's subwoofer output is less than 50 millivolts. And whatever it is, because it's impossible to have zero, but whatever it does end up being also doesn't have a behavior of growing. We want a nice, stable DC millivoltage reading that's less than 50 millivolts. Oh boy, I'll do 10 HomePods before I gotta do an HDMI port on an Xbox. But you're right, I could do these in my sleep. I think I do now. I don't remember half of the ones that I do these days. All right. I fix TVs in my dreams. All right, there we go. So it looks like we're gonna get down to about 8 millivolts. I like that. So we've got 8 millivolts and it's staying at about 8 millivolts. That is an excellent improvement. I don't religiously watch him, but I've seen some of his stuff. Yeah, he's one of those people that can look at a board and know exactly what's going on already. Completely understand the entire flow of power through a board. It's like a human electronics translator. He can just look at it and know what it's doing, what each part does what. What its role is for the overall circuit. That's cool stuff. We're only that good with HomePods. We're not even fully that good with HomePods. We're just pretty familiar with most of their issues by now. Assisted by a basic electronics understanding. You know what I do have a lot of fun working on? Probably a lot more fun than the Xbox is. From the sounds of it, the Steam Decks are pretty fun to fix up. I've had a couple in for shell swaps, had one in for a USB-C port replacement. Alright, you think about it. There we go. Oh, volume, come on. I just want to see the volume buttons. Don't play these games with me. Yeah.
I'm having trouble connecting.
Alright. That's Regan's first one. Here is their second one. Let's see if we have the same results. Nah, this is just a $3 like Lazy Susan that my wife picked up for me at Target. It's made entirely out of wood. Even the bearings are made of wood. Yeah, it's not a good idea because if you'll notice I never tip this Lazy Susan sideways. I always keep it level because as soon as you tip it sideways, all the dust from the wood bearings rolling around over time makes a huge mess. It pours out. But I just never turn it sideways, and all that dust just keeps it rolling smooth. And then this, yes, this in particular is an old HomePod part, and we use this because it fits perfectly over the rubber base of the HomePod and it doesn't wiggle around, but it can spin. And the most important part, when we slide this mesh down, you see, if you look at the bottom here, the mesh will start to slide down. And if you don't have the HomePod elevated, it's going to push this down and it's going to crease the mesh while you're working on it. So having it elevated, now, you see that? It's not actually creasing into the table, it's just chilling out. Oh, I could make all sorts of stuff if I had the time. Alright, again, subwoofer looks and smells good. .26K dated diode. Let's see if this even needs filters. Oh yeah, the Lazy Susan is when we really changed, really stepped up the game, man. It's so much easier to just have it spin around instead of, you know, not move the part, not the tool. Oh man, that's just so... It really doesn't need new filters, but doctors, not doctor's orders. Who ordered it? Customers' orders. Or maybe, we're gonna go ahead and stop here because I really do not want to touch those filters when they're testing so good. I'm going to go ahead and give them the option. I can put this back together without doing any work to it, and they can just pay for the one that got fixed. Or if they absolutely insist, we can still replace the filters on this, but it's not going to make the popping, you know, much any better, if at all, because that's about as good of a DC offset as you can get already. So there's no obvious issues with this HomePod. The Regan sent 4 HomePods in, 2 of which he described having noticeable popping. The last one that we fixed did have a little bit of offset, nothing too concerning. This one is just perfectly clean, and the thing with the popping sound that these make, all the HomePods make that popping sound as they turn on or off, as they go into low power mode, or if they wake up again. It's just the sound of the amplifier turning on and off. Generally, the loudness of that pop is a good indicator of how good or bad your DC filters are. In other words, how good or bad your DC offset is, or how close you are to starting to have death farts and roasting your bass speaker. That said, the quieter the popping you're judging this by, the less accurate it is. You know, if it's popping, if it's like a thud, if it's a really loud thud, or then that is almost certainly, you know, bad filters that need to get replaced. But if the quieter the pop, the harder it is to tell how good or bad those filters really are. And in a lot of cases, if it's just a quiet little tick or a click, and not really like a louder thud, then those filters are usually good. And that is the case here. I really don't want to touch them unless they really want to pay for us to do it. So that is actually it for here and now. I hope you all enjoyed this live stream repair, and I'll catch you in the next one.